group yet from me, but it's there.
Okay. Let's give it one more refreshment, and then we'll just get started. I have to make sure this is actually
it's going. It's
okay. All right. Here we are with Joe Lauzon, UFC veteran or live UFC fighter. I'm not sure.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Depends on what happens here.
Yep.
What's going on, Joe? What have you been doing with your time since this craziness?
Playing a lot of Xbox, a little Call of Duty Warzone, a lot of live virtual classes.
Yeah, you got a username in case people want to go at you.
What was that?
A username for your Xbox or something like that?
Yep, joelauzon.com. It's been so long since I've had people like hating on me, but I had like kids like spamming me nonstop, and then I joined their party so I could like block them, and they started just talking all kinds of trash, like, "Oh, Clay Guida knocked you out." Like, good.
Oh,
enough. Don't need this.
That's awesome. All right, cool, man. So first thing I want to get into is you had your UFC debut in September 2006, correct?
Correct.
That's almost 14 years ago.
Been a few times. I've been punched in the head a few times. I've been submitted a few times. I've done 1 or 2 strength conditioning routines.
A couple, right? And then 27 UFC fights, 30 total if you're counting the Ultimate Fighter. So yep. First question, after all of that, so 98% of people don't get to fight that long in that organization, or really any organization, and sometimes even just fighting MMA. How the hell did you manage to have that long of a career, especially in the best and biggest organization in the world with the toughest fighters, especially at 155 in the UFC? Give us some insight on that.
So the biggest thing was I had good coaches. Like I had good coaches. I mean, I think that, personal intelligence helps a little bit in some cases, but the biggest thing is, finding the right coaches. It's no different than business or anything else. I'm trying to run my gym better, so I'm leaning on you and I'm leaning on Midget. It was the same thing with coaches. Like I would go and find people that were good coaches that weren't like just like after money or after this or after that, but were in it for the right reasons. And anytime I train, I would always try to beat people whatever they were good at. Right. So if there's a guy that's a good wrestler, I'm not going to sit guard and try to sweep him. I want to out wrestle him. If someone's got a good guard, I want to pass it. If they have good guillotines, I don't stay away from the guillotine. I fight into their guillotines. I let them get the guillotine and I work out of it. And, you're always kind of fighting like an uphill battle against people in the gym, but it doesn't matter what happens in the gym. I get submitted left and right. It doesn't matter. It's just always playing to people's strengths in the gym when, is going to kind of help you, because sometimes I was the best guy in the gym room and sometimes I wasn't, but I could always get a good workout by going into people's strengths.
Nice. So what about your body? Like this is 14 years, and that's just 14 years in the UFC. So how long total of fighting MMA?
Started when I was 18, like 35 now, almost 35. So it's been a while.
Yeah. So 15 years of MMA. What's your feel like nowadays? Is it?
Overall, I feel really good. I mean, both my wrists hurt at different times. Like I'll move just right. I don't know if it's like I just had my wrist last time I was down there. I was blocking someone. They jam my wrist. A lot of punching, a lot of my knees are pretty much, they have all kinds of troubles. Like I've had a bunch of knee surgeries. I've had ACL surgery. I've had a bunch of meniscus surgery. My left knee locks up a little bit here and there, but I've become a pro at getting it to unlock. So we're good.
Nice. So, okay. So I have fighters at my gym, you have fighters at your gym. There's guys that are getting into MMA. Well, not right now, but before all this craziness happened and after, they're going to be getting in. And they basically, want to be where you're at. They want to look back and be like, man, I had a long career in the UFC. I made some money and, got famous and whatever. They want all that right now. What would you tell them some advice, like a couple tips to actually make that happen? Because we all know so many people come in, but only like a tiny percentage of them actually make it to the big show.
The toughest guys aren't the guys that make it, right? The guys that make it are guys that are a little bit lucky. Definitely plays into it. But they're the guys that make smart decisions on everything, going out and fighting your ass off but breaking your hand every time you fight and having exciting fights with people. That's not how you get to the UFC. Does it happen for some people? Yes. Way more people are guys that were, badass local fighters that didn't make it. No names. Billy Jew. But, but like it's all about just listening to your coaches, being smart, making good decisions. when you get injured, taking care of those injuries. You know, it doesn't mean you have to stop training, but it means, you know, like if you have a knee issue that's bothering you and it only bothers it when you're wrestling, right? Keep doing other stuff, but you bail on the wrestling a little bit. You dial it back a little bit. You know, don't be, oh, my knee's been feeling pretty good today, I'm going to go balls to the wall all at once right now. Like, that's not the way to do it. You have to be smart. You have to ease into things, have to take care of injuries. I think, you know, find a good chiropractor, find some people that are good at massage, more than one, because you're going to need, you know, massage when you need them, not just when it's available. You know, learn how to take care of your body, start drinking lots of water. Don't eat like a trash bag all the time. Occasionally it's okay. Come from me. You know, yeah, I have a notoriously bad diet, but like everything adds up. Everything accumulates. You just gotta, you know, make the best decisions you can and hope for a little bit of luck.
Awesome. Talk to us about your last fight, you know, in Boston, your home, you know, your home city, town.
Last fight was great. So I fought this kid, Jonathan Pierce, JSP. You know, honestly, like a really, really tough fight stylistically for me, because it's a long, lanky volume striker. You know, in the past, I've had issues with like cardio and things like that. You know, but we had a whole new conditioning routine. I started going to this place called Skill Strength, which is like an hour and 20 minutes from my house. So I was leaving my house at like 4:45 in the morning to drive there to get my lift in and get back. So like I completely, you know, dialed everything in as best I could. Prepared, you know, trained my butt off for it. Had a really, really short fight. You know, I stunned him in the very beginning of the first round and hurt him a little bit, and he kind of, you know, tried to get back and reset a little bit. And then, but I recognized that, and I kept the pressure on him, and I just stunned him again. I body locked him, took him down. I jiu-jitsu'd him. Yeah, that was it. I just, I wasn't even like.
How old you had?
It, you know, it wasn't even. That's something I'd never done to that point until then. Like, I'd never done that. Now every time I grapple, I find it all the time. Like I'm looking for
something like.
Was that?
It's like a half Nelson while flattened out, or.
So I always talk to people about how, like, if you're on your back and you want to get, you know, belly down, you have to scissor your legs. They have to, one leg has to come over, it can't happen otherwise. You can't do it. It's the same thing with your shoulders. If your shoulders can't come over. So I got Mount, and he tried really hard to turn up into me, but I was committed. I was not going to let him get his shoulders over. I was not going to let him, you know, get belly down and get his shoulders over. So I was focused on keeping him there, and he pushed so hard. He kind of pushed off the fence really hard. His lower body turned. I got both my hooks in, and I refused to let his shoulder go. I wasn't even trying to hit him. I wasn't even trying to submit him when I first caught the position. I was just trying to, like, not let his shoulders turn. And then I hit him a couple times, and then I realized he couldn't get away. He was completely stuck. And then I felt like I was thinking about jumping into a triangle. I was going to bail on the entire thing. I was going to take my hooks out and jump into a triangle. And then I felt the ref, like, getting right over my shoulder, like, you know, telling him he had to defend himself. I'm like, oh, he can't get away. I just started smashing him in the face. And the ref stopped it. I think he had to have surgery on his shoulder. I know it was on Instagram after he had surgery on his shoulder. I don't know the extent, but I'm sure I tore something for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Banged up his face, like the whole deal. It's the way it goes, you know. You know, and he's like, I understand he's coming in enemy territory a little bit, but, you know, he's posting stuff on Instagram before, like, oh, retirement party, I'm gonna retire him, all this other stuff. And like, I didn't know this like beforehand. But like afterwards, like I felt bad. Like right after the fight, I felt kind of bad because I just knew, like, I know what it's like to, you know, kind of come into enemy territory a little bit and just get beat up. You didn't get a chance to get going. You just got beat up. You know, like I felt a little bit bad. I tried to talk to him after, and then afterwards, all my coaches and my corners, you know, because I'm not following his Instagram, but all my coaches and my corner are, and they're all telling me, oh, he was talking all kinds of trash and this and that. I'm glad you beat him. Like, I was like, oh, I don't feel so bad now.
Great. Tell us a misconception that a lot of people have about being in the UFC or being a UFC fighter and having such a long career. Like, what do people think this is the way it really is, or whatever, or anything you can think of? Like,
I think that they think that, like, guys in the UFC are, like, at a completely different level, and skill wise, it's really not that different. Like last time I came down, like I got out-grappled by a bunch of your guys, right? It's really not that different. The one thing that's different is like the amount that you can dedicate for preparation is a little different, because like, obviously I can spend more time. I'm not working another job. So like I get to spend more time on, you know, physical prep stuff, strength conditioning stuff, whatever you want to do. But you know, it's not that different. It's just that guys have a little bit more time to get ready for fights.
Daddy, got to wear these.
Yeah.
You got to.
Okay, I got you.
You have to.
Okay, I got you.
You got to read for the interview.
I got these. Yeah.
Or
Whatever you
else
want.
it can be very dangerous.
I can't see anything in these, Joey.
Yes, you can.
I can kind of see, but it's really dark. Hey, we can't talk about this right now. Let's talk about this after.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
So tell us about that. There you go. So your kids transitioning from, just being a single guy fighting in the UFC to being married fighting in the UFC to having one kid and now two kids. And how has that changed your fighting, your camp,
So,
career?
When I met my now wife, she had no idea. Like, she didn't follow UFC at all. Had no idea what I did. Had no idea. And then her dad knew who I was. Her dad knew that I fought, but like, she had no idea. And then actually, when we went to the UFC that was in New York, so when I hung out with you guys, I forget who was on my card, but she saw me get like swarmed by people, and she thought I was just like exaggerating when I said like, "Oh, I fight in UFC." Like people always joking about how I'm famous and this and that. And then she got me absolutely mobbed by people, and I had to literally get dragged through by security, like with her, like, and she started like crying after, like she was all upset. So like she had no idea like kind of what the deal was. And then, but since the beginning, she always knew that, okay, like fighting had to come first. Like fighting came first. It wasn't about me and her. It was about fighting first. And I had to focus on that, and I had to prioritize that. And it was never a problem. Like if I wanted to take off and go down to Tampa and train with you, never a problem. It would never get any kind of grief for it. So I had to do this, I had to do that. I had to miss anything. Family stuff didn't matter. Like it was 100% fine, and it was accepted, and everything was good. And then we had kids, and then that completely changes everything. It goes from like, being able to just focus on myself. And she was dependent. She could take care of herself. It wasn't like I need to help her all the time. But if I could help her though, if I needed to. But then we had kids, and now it's a completely different thing. Now fighting can't come first anymore. Now it has to be your kids, and then now it's like I'm trying to balance. Okay, there's like this fighting career. There's my wife. There's kids. There's my gym. There's the rest of my family. There's all this other stuff. It's like you're trying to balance so many different things. And just hope for the best. And sometimes you do a great job with everything. Sometimes you do a terrible job with everything. Sometimes you're doing good at this, but bad at this. It's always trying to kind of shuffle and move things around. And, it's hard.
Yeah.
But we got it done.
I feel the same way, brother. Tell us a weird story about one of your fights, like something. What's the weirdest thing that's happened in a fight or leading up to one, or something like that? Anything?
There's nothing. I can't think of anything that's like super weird, like during a fight.
You got to win.
You gotta wait, bud. I think that there's been fights that have had like really really weird kind of circumstances or like bad training. Like one of the worst camps I ever had was I fought Melvin Gillard, which it was a great fight. I dropped him with a punch. I took his back. I choked him out. He was on like a 7-fight win streak. They were talking he was going to fight for the title next, and we completely derailed the entire thing. But he had like an after party like the night before the fight. Like he weighed in, and then he had an after party like between the weigh-ins and the fight. Like, but I had like the worst camp ever for that fight. Like I rolled my ankle really bad in the span of like 5 or 6 weeks. I rolled my ankle really really bad. I was throwing a knee at Andy, who trains in my gym. I threw a knee at one of my guys, Andy, and he threw a knee at the same time. He hit me like almost like kind of like in the groin, but like where it connects with like the hamstring. Like I couldn't pinch my knees. Like I'm big about butterfly guard. Like butterfly guards like my jam, and I could not like pinch my knees together at all. I would like cry if my son tried to push my knees together. I would have been screaming, crying. I couldn't do anything. So like took a big part of my game out of there. And I rolled my ankle. I hurt my groin, and then I got a tooth, like one of my front teeth, like knocked like super loose. So like I couldn't do anything. Like I literally did nothing but hit mitts for like 6 weeks, and for some of it I couldn't even hit mitts. And then we had a great fight. Like there's been other camps where I had like amazing camps. Like everything was great. Like all the sparring was perfect. I had great, really high level guys to go with. Everything was going good, and then I got beat up or I lost or whatever. It's so weird to kind of think about how like it doesn't matter how the camp goes. Like it does not matter. The only thing that matters is fight night. That's it.
The next fight. All right, so let's take some of these questions people are popping in here. This is funny. What's diet look like normally versus fight camp?
It doesn't change that much. So here's my thing. I definitely eat like a garbage truck most of the time, right? Like, but it's not terrible. Like, I have a really fast metabolism, so I'm not super worried about fats. I'm not super worried about carbs. Joey, you gotta stop, please. I'm not super worried about carbs. I'm not. So I could 100% have a sub or a pizza or chicken Alfredo, chicken broccolini Alfredo, or chicken parm, or steak, or rice, or whatever I want. Like, it doesn't matter. I can eat what I want. But I am always checking my weight. In camp or out of camp, I'm always checking my weight. I was 168 pounds this morning. Like, I'm not like, the heaviest I've been in my life is 178. And that was because I was lifting a ton, and I was just like, there was like a period where like we had pizza like every day for like a week and a half, like just for whatever. So I had tons of carbs, and I got up to like 178, but a lot of it was because I was lifting so much. But otherwise, I'm usually like 71, 72. I fight at 55. Like, I could make weight like any given time. You give me like a week, I can make weight like no problem. So, so I eat what I want. Why would I be, crushing myself and killing myself with like, all this like bad, tough dieting when my metabolism is fine and it just cranks away and just crushes calzones? Who doesn't want that? I got to keep that metabolism in shape. All these guys that get fats because like they diet so hard, especially wrestlers, right? They diet so hard, and then after the season's over, they balloon up and they get super big, right? It's because their metabolism was not in good shape. They keep it sharp
like that. Frivola. Just kidding, man. Casper says pineapple on pizza ?
I don't mind pineapple on pizza. It's not my go-to. I had a pineapple pizza the other day. I ordered it. I ordered my kids a cheese, and I went and I got myself. It was like a Hawaiian barbecue. It had like chicken and barbecue sauce, and there was some pineapple there. And I'm not gonna hate on it.
Monster wants to know: do you still add cream cheese to the mac and cheese?
I do. I give him credit for that. To every time I show it to anyone, I tell them about it. Like my kids eat a ton of pasta. And I tried to I was trying to they just eat they like plain pasta just with butter. So I tried to add like a little bit of cream cheese, and they weren't feeling it. I think it's better with like a red sauce. But yeah, I love it. That's like the best thing Monster's ever shown me or taught me. Was add pasta to your pasta.
That's great. All right, Josh. People don't realize Joe Lauzon is a computer geek. Tony Francisco.
I am.
That is true.
Who? He's like, oh, I'll help you get a Synapse box. I'll help you set it up, a Synology box. I'll help you set it up. Like, no problem. Like, okay. So I go and spend like $1,000 buying this freaking thing with like all these hard drives and all this other stuff. And then he ghosts me. Doesn't want to get back to me. Doesn't like, oh, I'll text you tonight. Don't hear from him 3 days. Oh, hey, I'm with my kids. I'm doing some stuff in the yard. I'll text you. Don't worry though, Tony. I figured it all out myself. I didn't need any help. I got it all done. No worries. I'm good.
Oh my gosh. All right. TJ Brownfield. The intensity that the UFC guys train with is much different. You all don't seem to have as much fun. It seems more all business. Do you still enjoy training, or does it just become another job?
I love training. I mean, I really enjoy it. So like I fought in October, and everyone's been talking like, are you done? Are you not done? And I don't know. Like I'm definitely I've definitely been picking it up a little bit in the last a couple weeks before all this stuff got shut down, which was unfortunate timing. But I really, really enjoy training. I think that, intensity is different, but like, I generally spar a little bit less now. So like I'll spar, I think this last camp I only sparred once a week. We did like 3 rounds or something like that. Like it didn't have to be anything crazy. Sometimes we sparred twice a week, but some weeks it was just one. Like back in the day, we used to spar, we'd spar for like 8 weeks, like 2 times a week. So we get 16 sessions in now. Like I think this last time, I only did 6 or 7 sessions. But I train hard though. I mean, but I do everything almost in like shorter spurts now. Like I think like a lot of my actual like skill sessions are a little bit shorter. My strength conditioning is longer, but my skill sessions are shorter. It might be like an hour, 45 minutes. Like sometimes we wrestle, we do like a hard 25 minutes, but it's like go. Jiu-jitsu, we do a lot of like shark bait stuff and like 1-minute drills and things like that. So, but no, I love training. I really do. I really enjoy it.
What do you think about guys like Cerrone? You even saw guys like Tony Ferguson saying, I didn't spar 1 round for this camp when he beat up, I forget. He did, I think his last fight.
I think it's less necessary. I mean, I think you need to, I think that they're saying they're not sparring, but that doesn't mean they're not doing drilling, right? So like, I think drilling is way more important than sparring, right? Like to me, hard sparring, and when I say we sparred is what I'm talking about, is we put on shin guards, 16-ounce gloves, headgear, and we try to murder each other. And like, you're literally going 100% until you hit someone or hurt them. Like until then, you're going 100%. Like, but the second if I hit someone, I hurt them, I pull it back a little bit, and we get another person to go in there so I can ramp up my intensity again. If they hit me, which has happened in the past, then the session's over. It's done. Like if you get rocked, you have to stop it. You can't
Yeah.
One of my guys was doing rounds with Calvin Cater back probably maybe 2 months ago, and he got rocked Calvin hit him. He went down. He got back up to his feet kind of quick. But he definitely got slumped down. Like he stumbled, got back up. And he's like, I want to keep going. Like, nope, you're done. And he kept he was arguing with us so much. Like, nope, you're not doing anything. And then 2 hours later, he's like, I'm glad you didn't let me keep going. My head is I feel all kind of I feel off even now, a couple hours later. And then for a week, he said, he felt lingering effects of it a little bit. So, you gotta be smart about dialing it back. And I think that as a guy like Cowboy, he's done so many hard rounds in the past. I don't think he needs a lot of rounds. He needs some drilling sessions to kind of get timing and range and things like that down, but you do not need hard sparring rounds at all.
Nice. So let's say I'm a fighter who has been training for 10 years but hasn't made it to a big show yet. I got a 10-0 record, right? And I have a good manager. He can get me into any of the organizations, UFC, Bellator, ONE FC, these tournaments where they're making $1 million. Knowing what you now know, and again, you've fought for a bunch of organizations before UFC, but you've been in the UFC this whole time. What would you say to that person? Which one would they go to? Which one should they go to? There's more options now.
I still think the UFC is the way to go. And I'm not saying it's because I'm still in the UFC or I can actually see the UFC, they pay everyone much, much better. Yeah. Are there a few guys at the very top that make a little bit more that you read about? Yes. Bellator, a guy like Rory McDonald's going to make a lot of money in Bellator, right? It's because you think that they're not intentionally making all those numbers public to try and attract people. There's tons of people in the UFC that are making way more money than that, but the numbers aren't public. It's when you're in second place, you want to try to attract everyone else. So Bellator is trying to attract everyone, so they're making their biggest numbers public. The UFC is never making their bigger numbers public. Bellator is also, there's I'm fighting for Bellator. Okay, yeah, you're fighting on a Bellator show, right? But are you fighting on Bellator, and are you getting paid a big Bellator contract? Are you fighting as a seat filler? Because it's a local. We got tons of guys that fight around here, fighting Connecticut or wherever for Bellator, and it's but you're getting paid $1,500 and $1,500, and it's because you're selling tickets. That's not much better. It's not you get to the UFC, you're making 12 and 12. Right, 12,000 and 12,000, not 1,500 and 1,500. It's or 2 and 2, or 4 and 4. You know what I mean? The UFC is still top dog. It doesn't matter what anyone says. I think that there's definitely a place for some guys that are guys that did well in the UFC, but weren't good enough to be a champ in the UFC. But then for whatever reason they get cut. For those guys going into Bellator or PFL or something like that, and maybe win the $1 million for PFL or something like that. That's a great move. If you're not going to do amazing in the UFC and you really want to try your chance and try your luck, it could be a life-changing, experience if you have a couple fights that go well. But I still think UFC is the way to go.
UFC, yep. Okay. Casper, how do you keep yourself motivated?
I'm super competitive with myself. I'm always trying to get better at everything, right? So I'm trying to get better at running my gym, getting advice from Matt and getting advice from Midget. I'm trying to always get better at being a better in my family and being a better dad. I'm always trying to be a better fighter and a better coach and everything else. And I think that just sometimes people, they find a little bit of success and they're happy to just be there and just that be the end of it. Whereas other guys are trying to always get better and always try and push a little bit. And I just always get better. I don't want to be, better than this guy. I'm I'm already better than that guy. I got a bigger gym. I got more experience. I've had more fights and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. I want to be better than myself. I want to be better than myself from 6 months ago or yesterday or 2 weeks ago, whatever it's going to be. And to me, that's just the perpetual race of always try to, do a better job and just always get better. That's it.
Were you always like that, or was that something you learned from someone or growing up, or?
No, I mean, just always so we used to always say at my gym AIT, which is always in training, and that was that kind of started with me because since I was 16 years old, I'm always in training. I was always getting ready for it started out, it was Naga tournaments. And then it was okay, a couple of my friends they were going to have fights. So I was helping them get ready for their fights. And then I was getting ready for my fights. And then I went to college and I was still fighting. And I was always getting ready for something. That's why I never started drinking alcohol, just because I always had something on the horizon. There was always something coming my way. So I was always focused on getting better. It's nice when you have a picture of someone that's going to beat you up, right? It's this person is it's their number one goal is to ruin your day and beat you up and take something from you. So I think it's just, even when you don't have a fight coming up, like I think it's still always to kind of like make like this imaginary monster that's like coming for your stuff, and he ain't taking my stuff. It's not happening.
Dude, there always is. It's crazy.
No.
Alec,
the coronavirus is trying to take everything we work for right now.
It really is.
It really is.
Alec Wells. So bad cardio and terrible diet, but still successful in UFC. So there's still hope.
There's hope. There's hope. Like there's been times. It's not that I just had bad cardio because I wasn't training. Like I had bad cardio sometimes because I got hurt. I got hurt in training camp, and I didn't pull out. I think I only out of those 27 fights in the UFC, right? There was one fight that I ever pulled out of, and it was because I took the fight on, like, I was supposed to fight Diego before I fought Diego. I was supposed to fight Diego in Mexico City, which is way up at altitude. It's like 10,000 square feet, 10,000 feet or something. And I took the fight. It was on like 3 weeks notice. So like we had to just, like, we didn't have any, like, usually like we have camp, like we kind of like work our way into it. We kind of get a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. We hit like a peak, and then we try to keep that going for a while. And then, but for this, it's like we didn't have like that rising up period. We had to be sparring right away. So we agreed to the fight on Sunday, and on like Monday we tried to just go like super hard sparring right away. And I just bad luck, whatever. Chris Palmquist, one of my good friends, good training partners, threw a body shot, hit me in the ribs, busted my rib. Couldn't do anything. So now it's like, okay, we only took the fight like the day before, 2 days before, but supposed to be fighting at altitude against Diego Sanchez, who's a cardio monster that also lives at altitude and is just a maniac. And I have to be like as sharp as I can possibly be for a guy like that. So that was the only fight we ever pulled out of.
Wow.
But there's a lot of fights where I was super banged up going into the fight because like I said, we had told you about the Melvin Gillard fight. I banged up my ankle, I banged up my groin, I banged up my tooth. Couldn't do anything. Still trained, still fought, still won. Other fights where I didn't work out so well. I lost fights, but I go hard, go fast, go home.
Awesome. I like it. Monster, do you think Clavin and Font are the next boys from New England to follow you and K-Flow's path? What other big names do you have?
Who are the names? Who are the three? Font, Cater, and who else?
Calvin, Cater, yeah, Font.
Calvin and Font. Yeah, I can see the thing now. Yeah, Calvin and Font. They're definitely. Calvin's supposed to be fighting Jeremy Stevens. Supposed to be the Brooklyn car, which is now probably not in Brooklyn. Definitely not in Brooklyn. They're saying maybe Florida. I heard maybe. Probably not Florida though. I don't know. I don't think the card's gonna happen personally. I just don't think. I think that the UFC is doing everything in their power to try and make it happen, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But yeah, Calvin's got a big fight against Jeremy Stevens coming up. Does a great job. Fonda does a great job. He's coming off an injury right now. But yeah, they're two big names. We got Randy Costa out of my gym. He's doing good things. He's just been smashing people. He was supposed to fight, but that didn't work out. It's supposed to be like last weekend. But yeah, we got a whole bunch of guys. We got a bunch of guys in New England that are doing big things.
Yeah, Randy's last fight was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he did great. He did great.
What are your thoughts on competing in BJJ competitions while trying to move up in MMA?
I think it's hard. I think it's so my grappling is it's very, very good for MMA, right? My grappling is not necessarily the best when it comes for someone as good as sport jiu-jitsu. I have way more trouble against guys that are super dedicated to sport jiu-jitsu because it's different. My guard passing is once I get the guard open is very, very good because I'm used to being I'm used to be able to posture up and then smash and punch people. If they want to be super patient and keep that guard close, my skill set is not as good about dealing with that kind of stuff, right? I'm not as used to forcing their guard open because I'm used to just rising up and punch people. So it's kind of different. It's not exactly it's jiu-jitsu in both realms, but it's not the same. My jiu-jitsu is very different than say Max jiu-jitsu, your jiu-jitsu. It's you have a more of a sport grappler kind of style, but it's still good for MMA. But I have a straight on MMA style, and I can still grapple really, really well with sport grapplers. But it's definitely it's different. It's a different game. It's judo and jiu-jitsu. It's just different. MMA to jiu-jitsu is just different as judo jiu-jitsu.
I don't know if you remember this, but this was maybe over 10 years ago. We were at Rob's gym in his old gym, and we were training. I think I was a purple belt at the time, and we were doing jiu-jitsu. We were just going back and forth and whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Just put these boxing gloves on, get in my guard, and I want to see what this is like, and I want to try to block the punches and try to sweep or get up or whatever. And you're like, okay. That was the worst 5-minute round of my life. I got my head smashed in, constant pressure overhead, my guard open. He got by. It was the most terrible round still to this day in history that I've ever had.
I'm glad. I'm glad I got to be a part of that. But that goes to what I was saying before, though. Like, if I'm going against a wrestler, I try to out-wrestle them. If I'm going against someone with good jiu-jitsu, I try to out-jiu-jitsu them. I was an MMA guy, and you did the same thing. You're like, Joe's good at MMA. Let's try and see how this goes. And you know what? Maybe got beat up a little bit. Probably not as bad as you're saying, but you got beat up a little bit. But that's why you got better. You know, if you just did sport jiu-jitsu and you're like, oh, let's put on the gi, you would have tied me up in knots, right? But it's not. You wanted to work at what you were better at. It
was interesting. It was fun. It was like, because then after the round, I'm like, I get it. Now I understand, like, jiu-jitsu, MMA. This is like a real MMA fighter. Because I'm grappling grapplers all day.
Yep.
Like, this is what real ground and pound feels like.
So and I think I was one of the first. I was probably one of the first MMA guys that had good jiu-jitsu. Right, there were a couple guys that were like they were straight jiu-jitsu, like a Damian Maya, right? They were like a straight jiu-jitsu, like they used their sport jiu-jitsu, and they were so much better than the people that it worked for them and it was successful. But I had like pretty good jiu-jitsu, and I was trying to fight. I was focusing on MMA before everyone else. I remember like we had Marcelo Garcia up and did a seminar up in New Hampshire, which is not far from me, like maybe an hour and a half. And I went up to a seminar, and I got a chance to roll with him. And one of the best comments I ever had is like, "Oh, like most MMA guys suck, but you did pretty good." Like I was like, "Oh, like that's like he got my back. I escaped. I'm sure he let me, but it doesn't matter. I got away from Marcelo's back.
You did.
You know. And but he's like, yeah, most MMA guys like they have terrible jiu-jitsu, but you do well. You know."
He actually told me the same thing. Your name came up when we were talking when I was training with him, and he's like, "Oh, Joe, he was very good, very, very good." Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's pretty cool to have the goat of jiu-jitsu.
It made me feel good. You know, but I was a grappler first. You know what I mean? Like I remember like my first couple fights, like they'd tell me to like make a fist and try to actually punch because I was just like slapping people and just like didn't even have my wrist straight. Like apparently, for those who don't know, your wrist is supposed to be like a pipe all the way through, not punching like this. Mm-hmm. So, but they were like, make a fist. Oh my gosh. You know, but I was a grappler first. I happen to be. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna grapple. I'm gonna do jiu-jitsu against guys that don't know jiu-jitsu. This is going to be awesome.
It's freaking crazy. All right, so I got a question. So looking back at your career, what's more satisfying to you? Your first fight in the UFC where you knocked out Pulver, or your last fight where you got to do it at home, freaking just smashing this kid, and just that feeling of being in Boston?
I think the last fight was better than the Pulver fight. Just because there was so much to it. Like I was on the verge of like crying as we're walking out. Like I don't know why. Like I don't get emotional like that. But I was like on the verge of like crying as we were walking out. Just like what?
We're not gonna have time to make it.
We will. I promise we will. After.
No,
can't do it right now. Can't talk right now. We will. You know, but I think that, you know, the first fight in the UFC was like big, but it was like so unexpected. You know, like the fight against Pierce, the last fight was like so much like work went into that. Like it was literally like a 10-month camp. Like I was like literally in camp for 10 months, like didn't take my foot off the gas for a second. You know, and it fell into place perfect. Like, it couldn't have gone any better.
I mean, no homo. Your physique looked better in that one than any other fight that I've seen you in.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't slack on anything. Like not a single step of the way. Like we crushed the cardio, we crushed the lifting. You know, and it wasn't so much that like we were doing more. It was just that like we were in a little bit better shape, so we could do everything a little bit harder. You know, if that makes sense. Like my wrestling sessions were a little bit better. They were shorter. Like we were doing wrestling sessions. We do like 5 3-minute rounds. Like that'll be it. Like we do like a light warm up, like just move around a little bit. We do like 5 3-minute rounds. That was it. And just call it a day. Like do that a couple times a week. Strength and conditioning workouts were like not super long, but we're like intense, like super intense. Like I started wearing get this Whoop thing.
Okay.
Like a wristband, and it tracks like your recovery, it tracks your sleep, it tracks like all your stuff. So like I made a big difference on like just sleeping more. Like it scores your sleep basically. It gives you like it lets you know how long you slept for and you know how well you recovered. And but it's just a number. It's a metric that you can chase. It's like, okay, like last night I got 8 hours of sleep and I woke up at like 75%. Like I need that to be better. So like tonight I got to get 9 hours of sleep. Or if you have like one night where I got like 6 hours of sleep, it hurts you so much in your score. It's like, oh, it drops down to like 42 or something. Like, so it gave me like a physical number to chase. So it just worked out a little bit better. So like, I think that was a big part of like, you know, looking better was the fact that, you know, strength and conditioning stuff, skill strength, chumps or mass. Mike Perry did a great job.
Freaking awesome. All right, Danny Matos. Have you ever gone through style changes in your fighting style or find a form you are feeling structured in and try to keep it that way? Also, how do you keep mentally grounded in camps? So has your style changed throughout this whole 14?
Yes and no. I mean, we always get better. So like I always say, I'm a slow learner, right? So like grappling stuff, like I pick up pretty quick, but like some things like are very, very slow for me. So I generally, like, if you ever notice, I don't really kick that much because I like keep my feet underneath me. I want to, be able to defend and attack with takedowns. My dominant striking style has been pretty much boxing forever. For this last camp, we started working a lot more Muay Thai stuff. So I was working a lot more like elbows and clinch fighting and knees to the body and knees to the legs and knees to the head and all that kind of stuff. So we incorporate stuff. And of course, I didn't use it at all. Like I trained for 6 months just doing like nonstop Muay Thai stuff and didn't use a speck of it. You know what I mean? I spent all this time doing stuff. Sorry to crew Jake. But I just we spent so much time working on the stuff. It didn't materialize in the fight, which is fine. We got the win. It didn't matter.
Exactly.
But, aren't those yogurts so good? Those are the best yogurts.
Kids love these.
Dude, right. I love those.
Let me get one more good question, and then we'll let you know you got your family there, and we're all doing the same thing, really. Last one. How much research do you do on your opponents?
So I've gone through phases on this. Back in the day, so usually I'll watch all my guys a little bit, but I don't drill into it too much myself. But I let my coaches watch all the stuff, mainly because I want them to kind of have like it does me no good for me to have an idea in my head of what I want to do if they don't agree with it and they don't have a way to get me there, right? So I want the plan kind of has to come from them on what we're going to do, and what we're going to prioritize. But I've had periods where like we got like super in depth on doing stuff. Like I had a couple camps where I was paying someone to basically run stats and do analysis on like striking combinations. So like how often does someone like literally writing down every combination someone had and every bit of film that they had, as far as like what are their combinations. Like I fought George Soteropoulos, right? And I ended up losing the fight, but had like I think it was a bad weight cut, I just felt like crap in the second round, but I did great in the first round. But he started with a jab like 96% of the time or something, so we had that number. So we knew that if we took away his jab, he couldn't get anything going on the feet. So like we just worked the entire camp on taking away the jab, taking away the jab, taking away the jab. And like the other 4% of the time that, he started with something else. Yeah, maybe he would hit me a little bit, but not that much. But if we took away the jab and we made him pay for it, it was way better. So it's just like we've gone through like all kinds of different phases and periods of it. But usually like I'll watch stuff a little bit myself, but then my coaches will go and break it down. I think that like it's good to have like figure out like 4 or 5 things. It doesn't matter if they're the most important things, but just you got to have 4 or 5 things that the other person does that you can try to take advantage of and try to plan to counter. And you do your best to be able to do those couple things. And if the opponent is using it pretty regularly, it's likely gonna happen during your fight. So like you've now put in all these reps to kind of prepare for someone, and you'll be ready to kind of counter them back and hit them and take advantage. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But if you're gonna be training, you might as well be trying to try to play the numbers as best you can to do the things that are most likely gonna happen.
Yeah, and then when you're in the UFC and fighting as long as Joe has, usually once they give you a name, you've probably already watched 10 fights before that, on this guy,
Yeah, but it's so different. Like there's watching guys for like just enjoyment versus like watching them for like, trying to pick out things. You know what I mean? Like it's, you pay way closer attention to like little things and habits and tendencies. And like, and I do, honestly, I do a really good job at kind of picking those things up. Like, I don't know why it is, but I tend to notice things and I'll be like, oh, if you notice he does this, and it's something like I watched like 15 hours of this and I did not pick that up. And now you say it, it's like staring me in the face. Like it's just, for whatever reason, I have a knack for like picking up on things like that. I don't know. Yeah.
They want to know what that wristband thing was called.
It's called a Whoop. I'll post. I have like a referral code. I'll post it in the group. I'll post a comment. It's awesome. It's like basically you pay for they give you the strap for free. You pay like I think it's like $25 or $30 a month or something like that. If you do like a 6 month, if you do it longer, it's a little bit less. It might be like $15 a month or something. But it's got like it's got some kind of green light. It's kind of like an Apple Watch will track your sleep and everything, but this is different. Like this will track your HRV, which is your heart rate variability. And if you have I'll get too into it, you want to have a low heart rate, but you want to have a high heart rate variability. so that if your heart rate does get a little higher, if you have a higher heart rate variability, you can basically, get it under control and a faster. It's just if you're more athletic, you have a better heart rate variability, and it takes that into account. So it can tell how hard your workouts are. It tells the quality of your sleep and how recovered you are. So if you had like a really hard, like Monday, you got to get good sleep on Tuesday, on Monday and Tuesday. So it tells you like how much longer you need to sleep and all this other stuff. So you wake up in the best possible thing, and you can tell it your hard days. So I can say, okay, like Tuesday and Saturday are the days that I spar. Those are the days I have to peak. So it'll kind of chart it. And it's on like a day-to-day basis. It's not maybe the best thing in the world. Like if you, like in the first week you get it, but after you had it for like a month or so, it's crazy how good it is. I can with 100% certainty, if I woke up with like a good recovery, I crushed it in sparring those days. If I had like a bad recovery, I tanked it and it just did not do well at all. And my coaches knew, like I knew what the numbers were, but then my coach would be like, "Oh, you had a good day today, you had a bad day today," based on my recovery, and it made a big difference for me. And I like the fact that I could chase a number. Like it's too easy sometimes to like be like, "Oh, I should go to bed. I should be in bed at by 9 o'clock tonight. If I get to bed at 9, I can wake up by 8, all right, or 7 or whatever time I'm gonna be, and I can get 10 hours or whatever." But then you don't, because you end up like you're watching TV a little bit, or you're slacking, or you're doing whatever, and like it's just too easy to kind of let that stuff get in the way, because you don't have the number. There's no accountability there. The second I got the Whoop watch, the Whoop strap, I would like put my kids to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock if Katie were working, and I would be like running to bed to get to bed as like fast as I can, because you can't lie with that number. It knows when you're just laying in bed versus when you're actually sleeping. It keeps track of like your REM sleep and everything else. Don't worry. So it made a huge difference for me. It was like one of the biggest changes I've made in camp in like a long time. And I'm not like, it drives me crazy to see people like those stupid hats with the ball on, and they're punching like the ball. Like it's like there's so many pieces of like crap equipment out there that like are like people wearing like the training mask. Like there's so many things that like I think are just complete garbage and like BS. But it made a big difference for me. Like it's an accountability thing. That's all it is. It gives you a number. You need that number. You have to have that number. So it made a big difference.
So you getting one.
Yeah, I bet you'll. I bet after like a month, you'll be like, "Oh, I don't know how I could do without this." Like, I get an Apple Watch, but I still wear that thing, just because like it keeps me better at track for me. It's awesome.
I like it. You get one. I'm a numbers guy too. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. There's a couple of questions people ask, but if you have time later, if you can pop in and see what they are, or
okay,
if you don't have time, no big deal either.
Okay, I'll hop on. I'll check them out.
And if you could put the link to that, or I'm sure.
Yep, I will.
Whoop.
Yep, I'll post the link. Yep.
For those who don't know, Joe does have a grappling DVD called The Ultimate Grappling Hacks. You can get it on thejujitsulifestyle.com, or you can go to ultimategrapplinghacks.com if you want to learn his jiu-jitsu and his MMA techniques. Anything else you want to?
No, I mean, I just, watching a grappling hacks DVD be great during a lockdown when you can't go anywhere, right? You're just gonna.
And weirdly enough, we have a big sale going on at the jiu-jitsu. So weird.
I keep telling all my guys, like, this is the time. Like, this is the time to get your wife, your boyfriend, your husband, whatever, to start training jiu-jitsu. Use them as a dummy. Get what you need, and then just maybe they'll be interested in jiu-jitsu a little bit later on. Like, it's a great time.
Join the Zoom classes, damn it. Ours, Joe's, everybody, we all got live classes going on. Get in those. We're in this COVID crazy times where we can't train. So what's the next step?
Okay.
All right, Joe. Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you.
See you, bro.
Later.